Hello, friends. Welcome to the End Evil podcast. This is Chris Jansen, and evil is the destruction of freedom. I'm glad to be back this week. I'm going to share with you guys a live roundtable today. I don't know who all is going to be around. Luckily, I didn't connect with as many folks as I would have liked to leading up to the show, but it's been 2024 is off to an exciting start. I got lots going and lots of good things happening. And there's going to be a lot to report for this show coming up. And one thing I really excited to share with y'all is that I just got really caught up on my main video platform browsers, thanks to my good friend Jerry. And you guys have seen Jerry on the One Great Work on the One Great Work Warriors. And Jerry Tappan is now he's starting to begin a position of doing content management, social media management. And he started doing uploads for my podcast. And he's done a terrific job, not only of organizing all the shows that I had to be uploaded, but then getting them all uploaded in a timely manner. All week I've been seeing all my episodes come fully uploaded. And that's really exciting to see. So if you want to get in touch with Jerry, he's going to provide this option for people to hire him to do this work. So if you're a content creator or you're someone out there struggling to keep up on your platforms, Jerry's someone to connect with. And I'm going to share his Calendly link in the show today, and I'll probably put it on the little thing that comes along the bottom here. But I'm excited. I already got a couple guests with me today. I got Brandon Spencer, and it looks like Chris Nelson's here. So I'm going to bring those guys in just a minute. And what we're talking about this week is education is the solution. Here's last week's discussion with the One Great Work Warriors was education as the solution. And we had a great talk, and you can review that on various platforms. You can always find my tap link. That's where I put all my stuff. And we also have a tap link for the One Great Work Warriors. If you haven't checked it out yet, there's a One Great Work Warriors Telegram. And if you're looking for any of these links, remind me in the chat and I'll share them. But I'm going to look for Jerry's Calendly link right now. And I'm going to bring in Brandon Spencer and Chris Nelson, and we can start up this awesome conversation about education as the solution. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining me. If anybody else wants to join, you're welcome to join the show. The link is in the chat. I'm going to make sure it's there. No, it's not. I didn't push 10 yet. Okay, there it is. Now it's in the chat. Welcome, Brandon. Welcome, Chris. Thanks for coming, gentlemen. Good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And Brandon's on a long trip, and he's been staying up all hours, so he's made the extra effort to join us today. Thank you, Brandon, for doing that. But Chris, since you, Brandon, and I have discussed this topic a little bit, were you able to catch up at all on that last episode? Education is the solution.
Yeah, I watched it a few days ago.
Fantastic. And any thoughts right off the top on that discussion?
Well, morality is the top thing to educate, and if you don't know morality, like Passio says, you don't know nothing. You still know stuff, but it's not it's secondary in importance. That's the most important.
The priority.
Yeah, that's the top priority.
Is morality. What kind of school did you go to, Chris? Did you go to public school?
Yeah, public school. There was art, and there was music, even into high school. So I don't know. I think it was the chat. It might have been Sarah that mentioned that it's not being taught anymore in her area. But I don't know. I'm not in where I grew up, but I think they still have it in public school. I guess it depends on where you are, but yeah. I guess it depends where you are and what they value, or if they're stuck in like Common Core. And I don't know how all the different school boards and different areas, how they vary. But when I was in public school, there was, I guess we did like ukulele in elementary school at some point, and I was in the choir at one point for Christmas, and there was music and stuff, and there was art, and even in high school, there was an art class, and there was home ec. I took home ec, and yeah.
I got a
so
funny
stuff
little
like that.
story about home ec. That class really stuck out for me because I remember that teacher taught us really carefully how to thread the bobbin for sewing machine. And I've had to do that, 6 or 7 times in my life since. I've had little periods of time where I've got excited about doing some sewing, or and then there's been 2 or 3 times where a female in my life has asked me to help them thread the bobbin for their sewing machine. And not to say that females should necessarily know that better, but here I am, Mr. Construction woodworking guy, showing someone how to thread a bobbin. But due to an awesome teacher I had back at home ec in junior high, and I don't think that class existed for another 2 years after I went through it. Probably got eliminated around that time. But go ahead, Chris. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, well, I think it fits with construction. Like if you have a hole in the wall, you got to patch it, and that's what sewing is. Like, anyways, the sewing I presume that you did, that I do too. I have like patched up underwear or socks, shirts. I have this one's new there, but I have shirts from over 20 years ago, from when I was in high school, and yeah, they're very worn out, so they got like holes everywhere as I keep patching them up. And as long as I can wear them, I wear them around home and stuff, so they keep me warm, and they still have utility, so I don't throw them out. And yeah, but
That's
they're
awesome.
getting worn down, that's for sure.
Hey, well, that's taking responsibility too, learning how to do things for yourself and the whole bit.
Yeah.
Right on. Brandon, I haven't let you say anything yet. Why don't you jump in?
Howdy, howdy. First thing, I'm in a hotel, so my internet connection isn't the best. And second thing, thank you, Chris, for coming on because you brought up the topic of morality. I didn't hit on it as much on the first a video, just because there's 6 of us, and I was hoping that one of the other gentlemen would have brought it up. But yeah, morality should be the foundation of all forms of education. And like I've always said, in my work, it is the glue, that should hold humanity together. And what good is education if it's not, if it doesn't have that moral foundation? Because I don't care what kind of knowledge you were trying to teach, it can always be misused, it can always be perverted, it can always be abused. So without that moral, foundation, then anybody could take it and exploit it. And there are still too many people out there who are trying to teach certain topics, who may bring certain, good information on certain topics, but they never touch on this foundation of morality. And that is the heart of natural law, and that's what all of our work is based on, so moral education is the solution, and people still haven't have figured that out. And there's still too many people out there, even in the freedom community that people talk about, which doesn't really exist because we aren't free, and we aren't really a community because people are still in an internal schism. But there are still people stuck in moral relativistic thought, and these people claim to be awake, claim to know what's going on, claim to be aware. If you do not know what's right and wrong when it comes to behavior, you are still asleep. I don't care who you are, you are still asleep because you haven't really started that journey into the self. You haven't really started that journey to understand our natural law. And that's why we are still suffering. That's why we are still seeing so much chaos and things aren't getting better, so you can apply it. You can take the whole and see that the individual still does not understand right and wrong behavior. People will still say, oh, it's based on whatever I think it is, or, hell, rights come from government, or it's based on time, it's based on culture. All of that shit is Satanism. It's moral relativistic thought, and we have got to get this shit expunged from our, from our psyche. And the only way we're going to see true, real change is a shift in the way we think and our consciousness, and that starts with moral education. That is the only fucking solution. And hell, when I was on the airplane over here, I was watching Mark's presentation from one of the anarchapulcos, and he was talking about the disease within the anarchist community, and he brought up moral relativism. And I see it all the time in people. I see it, in forums, see it being espoused by, people in universities on tenure. It's everywhere, man. It's everywhere. Moral relativism is found in religion. It's found in statism. It is everywhere. And we have got to start educating these people on this foundation. And then the other problem is there are people out there who know about natural law. We see them in the chats. They're probably chatting now. We see them in our Telegram, but they don't want to step into the role of being a teacher. And that right there is a problem in and of itself, because if we had more teachers out there willing to use their voice and create a platform, then maybe you can reach certain people who Chris can't reach, well, both Chris's, can't reach, or, he'll say, maybe you can reach someone who Will Keller can't reach, or Mark Pastor can't reach, or who I can't reach. That's why we need more voices out there talking about objective morality, talking about how natural law, talking about, we need to be raising our consciousness, and understanding that as long as we buy into moral relativistic thought, you can justify any form of immoral behavior. And it's so frustrating, because I see people out there, talking about natural law, but they won't step into the motherfucking realm of being a teacher, because they're still scared, or they think, oh well, I'm still doing my shadow work. We all are still doing shadow work. You're gonna be doing shadow work for the rest of your fucking life. So
Yeah, one thing that's really sunk in for me on that, Brandon, is recognizing just how deep the belief and the religion of authority really goes. Because I've even noticed it in myself. There's this tendency to like look to some authority when we're unsure of ourselves in our society. And this is bred into us from a very young age. Talk about one of the negative aspects of education. This education I'm describing isn't just happening in the traditional schooling, but it's part of our whole culture, right? There's this kind of like, everybody does it. They defer to authorities constantly. If you're talking about something of medical, for instance, someone be like, oh, are you a doctor? Oh, did you just watch that on YouTube? And when I was a kid, obviously, when we grew up, there wasn't that YouTube aspect, but it was the same attitude. It was like, oh, well, you should probably talk to someone who's an expert on that. There's like a really slow, like turtle-like willingness I'm starting to see in people to increasingly notice that there are more autodidacts in the world, people that have learned things on their own. And when you meet people that have homeschooled themselves and learned to do things on their own, it's amazing what people are able to do. But that is what we're not getting in our traditional process of people being raised in this culture, because they're just kind of like, just like going to the phone right away for the answer of things rather than thinking about it. That discernment process of how do I find out if I'm right about something? How do I even know if I'm right? It's a scary like playing field, I think, for a lot of folks, because they're used to always deferring to someone else to get them the answers. Hey, Derek, check in. Are you there? Can we hear your voice? His audio doesn't sound like it's coming through. Try it again when you can, Derek. Maybe sign out and sign back in. Yeah, we got Derek with us. Yeah, hopefully he can pop in here. And if anybody else wants to join us, right in the chat, I put the link. And I also put the link I was telling you about my friend Jerry, who's offering doing content uploading for people, your social media channels. That's a major challenge if you're a podcast and content creator. And if you're not, why aren't you? There's important things to be talking about here. So I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, I could pop in there on things you touched on, authority. Yeah, the public, I guess all education systems, not just the public one, you have to respect the teacher, and then you have to raise your hand. There's all these things that most of us know about. We've thought about it going through Passio's podcasts and other places. Brandon did his presentation on schooling as well, how it's like a prison. And yeah, you're always, so there's this indoctrination of appealing to authority, which is always well, it's a fallacy at the basis. It doesn't mean the authority is wrong, but when you just go, as you said, off the cuff, just whatever the authority says, then you're not thinking for yourself. So that's what appealing to authority, or appealing to the experts, which is what we've seen a lot of in the past 4 years with the COVID scamdemic, pandemic nonsense. It's just people dismissing anyone who's not an expert, because you have to be an authoritative source of information. And if you're not, then you have nothing worthwhile to share, nothing worthwhile to provide. If you go against what the other experts are saying, even if you are an expert, well, then you're just a fringe idiot and you don't know what you're talking about. So even for the people who are still stuck in the appeal to expert or appeal to authority mindset, they are still cherry picking who they're going to listen to, because they're still not thinking for themselves. Even though there's contrary information provided by different experts, they're still not engaging in their cognitive faculties of trying to discern, as you mentioned, what is right or what is true, what is correct. With the information provided, you have to weigh it, and there's a process to go through to weigh the information and first be open to it. So in the past few years, that's one thing, people have not been open to it, and fear plays a large part in that. Fear is shutting down their consciousness, and the only ones they listen to are the ones who fit the narrative that fits with the fear. So the narrative that fits with the fear in terms of the expert is the one who agrees with the problem being there and all the ways that they believe are going to protect them. So the social distancing, the masking, and all these things that we already knew weren't going to work, and people believed it then, people still believe it now, the shots and everything. Well, these are the experts that are going to protect me. These are the experts who are saying, oh yes, these things, you do these things, and then you will be safe or safer, and you won't be a grandma killer. And yeah, I guess I'll stop it there. What do you got to say, Brandon?
Yeah, talking about the appeal to authority, when you tell someone that you are a teacher, like their reaction is, "Oh, what grade do you teach, or what school do you teach at?" As if like you can only be a teacher by teaching at a government school. Like hell, they're so stuck into this mindset of authority, of statism. That like you can only be a teacher if you get your diploma from Caesar, and like that's the problem. Anyone can be a teacher, but of course, to be a teacher of natural law, of right and wrong, you should know this knowledge yourself. And of course, making all these fallacies. These are the same idiots, who will continue to make these fallacies, and that's what blocks them from exploring and going deeper in their own, health psyche, in their own knowing. And it's fear too, because to truly understand how right and wrong behavior, then you have to start weighing your own actions, and you have to start looking at your own self and say, oh shit, hell, did I just do something wrong? Or hell, you have to look at your past behavior. So you have to start holding yourself accountable first. And that's what people don't want to fucking do. And they'll run, hell, they'll run 1,000 miles, hell away from, say, oh well, how someone else is gonna know that accountability. So they'll try to put, hell, that decision on somebody else, or on the group or on the politician. No, motherfucker, it's you. You have to weigh your behaviors. You have to have that standard. You have to. It's like, of course, in the scales of my yacht, weighing of the feather. You have to weigh your actions. Right action, right behavior. But how motherfuckers don't want to do that. How they just want to stay ignorant. And it's just so frustrating. I don't know how, maybe I'm just, trying to vent because I've, just keep coming across these moral relativistic thoughts, these moral relativistic people, this toxic, cancerous ideology, and it's really going to lead us toward extinction. Because moral relativism is what breeds slavery. It's what breeds suffering. It's what breeds statism. It's what breeds violence. It's what breeds coercion. It's what breeds war. It's what breeds fucking genocide. So all of these things that are taking place in the world are all a function of moral relativistic thought. And there'll be people out there, that say, "Oh, why won't you comment on what's going on in other places of the world?" Bitch, I am. I'm talking about the state being immoral, people being immoral relativistic thought. I'm seeing it from a larger umbrella, from a larger picture. So I'm talking about not just one particular area of the violence, of the genocide, of the theft, murder, the rape, the mistreating of children. All that shit is immoral. But why is that going on? Because people think in their minds, people believe in their minds that man gets to choose and create what is right. And that's the fucking problem. We don't get to fucking play God. We don't get to fucking play creator. That shit is set in stone. It's in the fabric of fucking creation. You can understand this shit by observing nature, by observing reality and weighing the consequences, by weighing the effects. If you're too dumb, if you're too fucking stupid to understand that part, then look at it from an energetic, a frequency. When there is wrong behavior, it creates a frequency that you can feel. Just as though if it's the right behavior, it creates a positive emotional vibration that everyone can feel. So weigh your options. Which one do you fucking want? Hell, do you want the fear or do you want the fucking agape? It comes down to a fucking choice.
Yeah, and what I was reflecting on while you're talking there, Brandon, is that how opposite so many of those things kind of pan out. Like, in order to have that confidence, to be happy and make decisions, one needs to be able to analyze things for themselves, right? And it's usually people are looking to the external for that. And then, like in a religion, for instance, where anyone fully committed to religion has accepted some layer of dogma, and what that does is sort of ease the decision making process on the self, where we have to make the discernment: is that right or wrong? And the truth is that we have to make mistakes in life. We have to do things that aren't right. um, is it possible to live a life where you're just 100% right and you never do any kind of wrong? I doubt it, especially not in the world we're in. We're swimming in wrongs. But there's also like a layer of making what we call mistakes that's necessary. And like we have to kind of let go of that fear you're talking about to make mistakes and then be able to like say, oh, I was wrong. I said something wrong. And that happens, like when I get on this show and I say things, every once in a while I listen back to one of the things I wrote and I'm like, or I said, and I'm like, I kind of don't like how I put that. But I'm willing to make that mistake. I'm even willing for someone to pop on the show and be like, hey, Chris, what you said, I don't think that's right. Good. Let's do that. You know what I mean? But it takes a certain amount of confidence and willingness to be wrong, to put yourself in that place so you can learn. And that fear, that's what's holding people back. So they don't ever want to be wrong, right? They just want to be right from the beginning. That's where like a dogmatic religion makes it easy. We're already right. You don't have to jump off any diving boards or step off any cliffs of faith or thought, and you don't have to take any risks. Just go with the preconceived conclusions and beliefs that we've already prepared for you, which is the most dangerous path for all of humanity. So yeah, that's a little bit I was thinking of there. Welcome, Fred. I want to come right to you. Let's check one more time to see if Derek gets sound. Derek, you there? His mic's still not working. So I'll go ahead and pass it to you, Fred, and try again, Derek, in a little bit. How you doing, Fred? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Chris, for having me once again for this important conversation about
education.
Yeah, and education and self-respect is one of the things that are connected together. So education, I resonate a lot with what Brendan brought earlier, and I like his wording on that and how he choose to use vitriol and to explain that. I think we're way past sugaring and watering the truth. I think we need to push it as much as we can as individual, and the work is not education is never over for each of us, each other, for each other. It's an going thing there, and I must remember people that this is you were talking about making mistakes and things that like that, but this is life. Life is just like that. We are like instinctively pushed to learn by the apophatic approach to learning and education. So this there's something that everybody needs, and it's humility, being humble on your path and where you are and where you come from, and not getting trapped into this ego trap of of being in the absolute all the time. We're like from time to time when you get into the great work, you seems like you topped on some things, but there's always something to learn. And how do I do that? It's by listening to people, and this is where we should put our energy in. It's having active conversation just like this one and other people outside of the internet, and having discussion about morality and what it means to do right and wrong and natural law and all these things. And this is, I think, what all people here are trying to achieve, is doing it for the betterment of humanity. It's not a super complicated thing, but it needs courage, and it needs it, we should not fucking stop. It should go bigger and louder, and we can see people, there's a bunch of them who are joining the ranks in the front line of the spiritual war, and it's encouraging. It's not like there's no one coming. There's always someone coming, and we need to we need to just go. And even if you got 1% of all the listeners, 1%, it's great. 1% is incredible. And if this person joins another one, and then another one, and then another one, and this is why we're using internet and streaming devices and things like that, to join as much as people as we can. And we must not stop. We must go on and get over our little chicanery and get over this shit and just push it.
Absolutely. Thanks for that inspiration, Fred. And this could be exponential. I try to remind people that evil does not have to be the prevalent force. That's why this podcast is called End Evil, is it can be ended in the large scale if we all make that our goal. And we can do amazing things, especially if we begin to work together on a larger scale on this education of the education that will actually make a big difference in the whole for everyone. But really excited to see Jeffrey. Thanks for joining us, Jeff. We want to do a sound check? We hear you all right? Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're coming in all right. Sorry, I muted you just for a minute while you were getting settled there. If sometimes if there's background noise, maybe hit the mute button. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for allowing me to join. I've been listening to Mark Passio for a couple of years. I got to episode 200. I'm trying to get through all of what on earth is happening. But I agree with what he's saying that the battle between good and evil. It involves everybody in the world. We all have to benefit from good winning or to suffer from evil winning. And I'm trying to do the great work. I haven't made my own channel or anything. This is actually my first time just joining your podcast. But I think a small percentage of people are psychopaths. I think evil can't collectively win against good unless many of the good people are deceived, like they are through the mind control. For example, if we don't have our rights to defend ourselves taken away, if everyone was armed, it would be very dangerous to victimize anybody because everybody could defend themselves. And if someone's unable to defend themselves, I think most people are willing to defend the next innocent person. They would like to be defended if they were in need. I think the majority of people would respect and protect each other's rights, and the few people who do want to have rights being violated, to have situations of war and crime going on because they hope to benefit from it. Those are the psychopaths. I think they are very rare, and it sucks that they're actually winning. They have good people on their side thinking that it's virtuous to contribute to government instead of rebel against it. People are trying to do the right thing, but they don't know what is right because they've been deceived, and it's an info war, like Alex Jones has been saying. That if I tried to get violent and try to take over the government or something, I don't think I'd get very far. I think we need to change people's minds. Most people are good if they recognize the side of good is freedom, not slavery, and all government is slavery. The ones who do want to victimize others will, they would be outnumbered and overpowered. Government is the only way that evil could win against good. So I've watched a few of your episodes, and I had things I wanted to add to it, and I never realized there's a link. It's easy to join. I'm really glad I joined this time.
Yeah, it makes my heart like really happy to see someone new pop in and say like, hey, I'm just getting started on this, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to come in here. To me, that really makes it worth what I'm doing here. That, oh look, there are other people out there that care, and here's someone, Jeffrey, just pops in hella brave, showing bravery, truly teaching the other people that are watching, like, you're a teacher now. Even if everything you said wasn't great, which it was, you spoke really well. There's nothing you said that I disagree with. And, one of your first times popping on and you're already speaking fairly eloquently, but you know what I mean? Even if you had stumbled your words and said something not quite right, who cares? Like, you showed that bravery, you popped on, and you're putting yourself in the place of becoming a teacher. And that's all it takes, really, is just that step of initiative to say, like, I do care about what's right. I want to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. So, I hope other people watching are inspired by the move you made today, and I hope they do similar things themselves. Derek, you with us yet, buddy? Oh, I thought I heard something. I don't know. He's having some mic problems, so if he could get it sorted out, I always love hearing from Derek. But anyone else want to pop up next?
I want to bring something, and I think this is never talked enough is it's the care principle. I mean, education is a caring thing. You care about truth, you care about life, you care about morality. I mean, this is where it begins. You care about yourself, you know. How do you act with yourself? How do you act with the others around you? And this response that you have with the external stimuli of life. And I think education is it's a very personal, intimate thing for everyone. There's some people are so much more into the esoteric stuff from the traditions than me. I'm more from the psychological aspect, the fear-based mind control. And why do I chose that? Because it affects everyone. And one of the things I want to bring about education is when you want to get out of mind control, you have to know about it. You have to go deep into this rabbit hole or the rabbit holes because there are so many of them, and you have to dig because you're gonna get connections with yourself, with your relation that you have with the others, and all this cultural phenomena that it's always transmuting, it's always changing every day here in Quebec. And Chris can talk about this too. It's going very fast. You know, they're pushing the agenda, but I'm doing the same. You know, I know there's no much time to lose about that. We don't have much time now. You know, so we have to do something, and I cannot do it by myself. You know, all by myself. And what we need to put our mindset on is we need to push the information, even if it makes you tremble, even if you have to tell the truth and make some enemies or lose friends. It doesn't matter anymore because your friends are gonna turn on you. You know, we are like a front line, and you have this 500 1,000 people who are ready to push on you, and we're like what, a handful of person who are actually doing it. It's like swimming against the river, but we don't have the luxury to abandon the work and get discouraged by it. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard on yourself. It's gonna be hard on your situation, and we're it's not the last that we're gonna have to fight against it. It's gonna get worse and worse and worse because people don't care. People don't care. And how do you make people care? And this is what I want to ask to the four other beautiful people who are
It's
there.
a good question, Fred.
Yes. And when you cannot get through this thick schism, this neurotism, when you cannot go through it, how do we do that? How do we make people care about the truth? And why are we doing this? Is it for personal goals? Is it for the betterment of humanity? And we have to ask these questions to ourselves all the time. We
Yeah, you got to
must,
kind of keep
yeah,
asking them too, right? Because
yeah,
over time, you realize that, it's easy to start losing, touch with the vision. Like had that happen several times throughout my process of the podcasting. Like, wait, what am I all about? How did I start this whole thing? Do I know what I'm talking about? And that especially happens when you're creating a presentation. You get way into it and you realize you're like, I don't even remember what I'm talking about here. And you have to kind of like start over and review. It's a tricky process because you're creating the playing field. It's like baseball or something where all the bases are already there, but in this game of philosophy, you kind of have to create the bases and the goals and the playing field. And now that a lot of us have done this work, a lot of that's out there. Some of these words to play with are out there, but a lot of times those are going to hold up people, and different people are going to hear things different ways. And so we just got to keep coming at it like picking a lock. It's not just pressure. It's not just force. It's being careful. It's trying different things. It's trying different angles. It's coming at it with a different tool. And that's why I think it's so important to bring in different voices and hear from different people's perspectives. So, Chris, I saw you had a slide you brought up there. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. Well,
Let's bring that
I'll
slide
touch
in.
on. Yeah. So, what? Oh, damn! I had a thought about what you were saying, but I just lost it. But I could
I'll
touch
remind
on
you.
what?
I'll remind you if you want.
How do you know what I was thinking?
I'm a mind reader, dude.
Oh,
No.
yeah, it was about creating presentations. I'm
See?
saying the best way, you don't know something as well as when you teach it. And that's my experience. I'm sure you guys can relate to it. You're like, yeah, I'm going to talk about this, and until you actually go to like, okay, I'm going to try to teach it, then you realize how, oh yeah, there was this part and there's this part and there's this. You end up learning more and understanding something that's a topic more when you actually go to teach it, because you're trying to, at least in my case, I try to find like all the nooks and crannies, all the details I can, which can be, I guess, cumbersome for some people. That's why some of my presentations are really long. But it forces you to think, and you try to find like the negatives to try to disprove something, so then you can like, oh yeah, well, someone could bring up this angle and you're like, okay, yeah, so I got to talk about this because this will explain why someone would think in a false way to try to disqualify the essential goal or meaning or purpose of the discussion of what you're trying to convey as information. They could bring up something to try to negate it, and then you can think of that, and then you can present that as well in order to solidify and make your argument even stronger. And if you go to the screenshot, that's what I thought when Fred was talking about care, and I was like, oh yeah, this is what I showed like for 2 seconds in my presentation on Seed 5, and it's care is in the middle, and it has the trinity of the trivium and the trinity of consciousness merged together, and care is your generator at the beginning, and it's in the image of the seed of life. So it's apropos to what Fred was talking about, and it's you have to care in order to learn, to consume the information that others provide, and then you have to care to teach it, to output the input, the stimulus, and the output as the response. So care is central to our evolution in consciousness. The name of my site, Evolve Consciousness. Care is, you have to care for truth, especially moral truth above all, as moral truth is of supreme importance. And if anyone wants to check it out, you can find it on my site, evolveconsciousness.org. And the last point about what Fred was saying, talking about how do you get people to care, and it's not popular, but this is something I've realized for a long time, and it's chaos, suffering. That's the teacher, because it has become personal for people, and it's been especially exemplified in the past 3-4 years that people only started to care about the evil and immorality and the slavery, even if they're not cognizant of it being slavery. They understand it as something that's wrong, and they've only been able to recognize it as such because the level of enslavement was like at this level, and then it got like popped up, so that created a confrontation into their normalcy bias, and it went up a level. So they were forced to confront how it got ratcheted up, and they only recognized it as such, or not that they only recognize it, because they can recognize things that are going on in the world, but they don't care about it. But when it personally affected them, then they began to care about it. Then they objected to it. So unfortunately, in most people's cases, they will have to suffer, and they will have to have chaos in their lives in order for them to care, to pay attention, and care to learn more about it, and then potentially even get to the point where they can speak about it. And myself, I was fortunate to not have to go that route. Mia was, I've spoken about this before, but it was in 2006, Alex Jones's presentation on Terror Storm. It's called Terror Storm. I don't know if people have seen it, but I only got through half of that presentation, that documentary he made, when they were talking about the John Yoo memo of how they authorized torturing the enemy combatants' children in order to get them to confess. That was like such a shocker to me. I turned it off and I only got back to it like 2 weeks later. But that I recognize that as my catalyst. It was again chaos and suffering, but it was not, to me, it was not personal. But because of our capacity for sympathy and empathy, that we can identify with the suffering of others, that's what awakened me, and that's what sent me on my journey since 2006, on my knowledge quest, as I called it then. And then eventually you get into, hopefully you find Passio, because that's top-notch information that everyone needs to go through. And I'll pass it there. Maybe Derek has his mic back.
We got his
hello.
video on. What's up,
Hello.
Derek?
Wow, holy smokes. I'm having issues all over the place for the past couple weeks. I don't know. This new year is not treating me well. I don't know. There's, as Brandon likes to say, gremlins or something like that. I usually keep my stuff pretty well tuned, whatever. I don't have a Apple for the teacher, even if public school system could be rotten to the common core. Get that pun? But anyways, I'm not going to sour up the conversation with, any kind of citrus crap, but yeah, from the old school to the new school, or are we going to have the true school as far as, like bring in proper educational solutions, and that really starts in the household through conscious parenting, a la, folks that are talking about that. I have a show with Dana Martin coming up with Leslie Powers. That's going to be great. We already spoke with Will Keller. I've spoken with pretty much all y'all, Chris, both of y'all, Brandon, and James Cordner. We had a really good conversation talking about false authority and how all these, from the teachers to all these levels of institutions, to the government, to the top down, there's these false figures of authority. And, for what are kids taught in schools to respect authority and all this stuff. So there's some causal factors to look into in regards to that, and how, looking at that, we can kind of flip the script and find solutions within that in and of itself. But going back to the old school and paying homage to the folks that came before us, and we're talking about education and, the blasphemous things about it, whether it be the Rudolf Steiners and that kind of stuff, or Mark Twain, who's got some pretty cool ones, like, I've never let my school interfere with my education. Or education consists mainly of what we have unlearned, that kind of stuff. And Malcolm X had a good one as far as education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. So how are we preparing for it exactly? And yes, are we keeping that moral compass really aligned to universal law and just that oscillating heart chakra, where it really can be a way that we, see right from wrong and feel into these things, like Brandon was talking about in the beginning. And Jeffrey, you were talking about, the mind manipulation and all that stuff, and a lot of that is filtered through forms of education or even entertainment or what we see on the news. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts on, how we can flip the script on that, as far as, properly educating people, and kind of undoing mind control and that kind of stuff.
I have an idea. I think I think a major reason that a lot of people don't care is they think that it's a lost cause to care. I think the engineers of society, they're psychopathic psychologists, and through their psychology, they've made a society of sociopaths. a socialist society of sociopaths. It's centralized collectivism. All forms of government are actually different degrees of socialism. And sociopaths are similar to psychopaths, except for they're not born. They're made through conditioning. The main difference between a psychopath and a normal human being is a lack of empathy, almost complete lack of empathy, and no chance for learning empathy. Sociopaths are damaged people that do have a conscience. They do have empathy, but they lost their connection to their conscience, and they lack empathy, or other types of antisocial personality disorder, whether it's narcissism or different diseases where they lack empathy. And they've done that through convincing people to think they have to have a predatory instead of symbiotic behavior in order to survive. The truth is, there's so much scarcity on Earth because we're all fighting each other. If we weren't using so much resources on war, there'd be abundance for everybody. If we're symbiotic instead of predatory, there would be more abundance, and I think most people actually they don't want to be so greedy and selfish, but they think they have to kill to survive themselves. For example, I was naturally an anarchist growing up. Like when I learned the definition of anarchy, by the time I was 18, I ended up joining the military. I signed up for the Navy. I did a 6-year enlistment. The reason is, some people have brought up to me, like, if we did have anarchy, if we didn't have any military defending us, then we would be invaded by China or Russia or some other country with a more totalitarian government, and it would be a lack of freedom. And I acknowledged there's all these countries competing with each other, and I thought USA, we originally declared our independence against feudalism. We are one of the most freedom-respecting countries. We're not perfect, but we're closer to being right than the other countries. There should be some one world government. Maybe USA will conquer all the other countries, and we can work on something from there and try to get more free. And I was thinking I have to accept that for the time being, in this stage of humanity, we need government for a while. I was wrong. I realized when I was still in the Navy I was wrong, but I didn't decide to leave. I actually had a girlfriend who left a joint roach of marijuana in my ashtray, and they were searching random cars coming onto base, so I got kicked out for marijuana because of zero tolerance. It was in 2001. It was right after the 9/11 bombing.
Lucky accident, huh, Jeffrey?
Yeah, it was a lucky accident. I remember thinking, like, you know what, I promised to follow any orders. What if they order me to do something that's wrong? I'm not going to follow that order, but I've promised to. And like, I was tricked into making a promise I don't want to keep. And it was a lucky accident to get out. But I know now that order followers should quit their jobs. Everybody should tell order followers they're wrong. Like I got a half brother. Wasn't raised with me. A long lost half brother that I was reunited with. He's actually a police chief in a small town in Wyoming. I love him. He's my brother. I'll say he is a good person. He's a bad person at the same time because he's employed by a government that gets the money to employ him by extorting people. And he makes sure he's only got 5 employees. He's sure none of them are corrupt. He knows all of their families. He, but yeah, he's still wrong for being a cop. I'm going off on a tangent. I don't want to talk bad about my brother. He's a great guy. I don't condone him being a cop, but no. I was trying to say my idea to get more people to care. I really went off on a tangent.
Oh, it's so hard not to do that, Jeffrey. I do it all the time, bro, and it's like your mind's trying to make all these connections, and it starts grabbing all of them, and it's like which thread do I go down, right?
Yeah, thanks for understanding. So I don't want to criticize Mark Passio at all. He's been like a great teacher for me. He's probably one of the most probably one of the best speakers on natural law in our lifetime, if not ever. But he always says like no, like if you're not even doing it yourself, don't tell me how I'm doing it wrong. And I thought, you know what, I might as well try to make a viral video and inspire more people, just like he says. I don't have a better idea, so I might as well do that. But I kind of do have another idea as well as that. Not a criticism about his approach at all, but he was actually on Alex Jones, and Mark Passio is probably the most famous guy speaking about natural law. He put together all his information so eloquently and everything, but he's not nearly as mainstream or famous as Alex Jones. And Alex Jones, like he at least got the guy's attention. And Alex Jones, I admire him too because he reaches so many people. He is trying to teach that the global government is corrupt and our government is corrupt, and but he doesn't get the big picture. He doesn't understand natural law because I've seen guests on his show say our government's bad. We should rebel against our government the way it is. But I'm not calling for anarchy. And Alex Jones doesn't correct them. He should say, no, anarchy does not mean chaos. It means no masters, no slaves. It actually is the right way. If someone like Alex Jones, who has such a big following, if he actually understood natural law, like I think that would be more valuable than all of the people who've seen Mark Passio trying to reach other people. He could reach a billion people overnight if he would actually come out against all government. And someone like him, I think he's trying to speak for what he thinks is right. He just doesn't know the whole story. I think Alex Jones watching Mark Passio, what on earth is happening all the way through, and really understanding natural law would be more valuable than 100 new beginners starting to try to spread by viral videos. It's a long process to create what Mark Passio created. I'm going to try to do the same thing. I'm starting from nothing. I never wanted to be famous. I don't even use social media much. I'm doing it because I think it's the right thing to do. But since I don't know where to start, I'll probably buy the course that he sells. The
how to become the true media. Yeah. I've been through his course multiple times, and it's a wonderful resource to kind of help people get started on all those skills you need. There's a lot to it, but shoot, when I started out, I didn't know anything about this stuff. I was like allergic to a lot of this technology and stuff. And I'm gonna mute you for a sec because I'm getting some background sound there, Jeffrey. Just let me know in the chat anytime if you want to jump back in. But I really appreciate everything you were saying there. It's right on. And one thing you were bringing up too is like knowing people that are in the police or in the military, and it's a delicate line we have to walk on with people we know and related to, because if you just say it straight out to them, you're evil, you're bad, because they're not going to hear it. So I think it is something we have to be kind of careful and gentle with how we speak to people, Maybe someone else will do it by being loud and aggressive the way Passio does it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that either. Everyone's going to have their method. But me personally, when we're talking about care, I think what people are lacking in so many cases is they didn't get that care. You know, they were raised on television, they were raised on school, and a lot of the adults in their life didn't truly care about their decisions and their choices, and they traumatize these people. And when people get traumatized, they get afraid, like Brandon was describing, and they're afraid of their own choices. Their own choices seem scary. Who am I to make a choice? Because they've been so devalued by people that treated them like they were just a number, like they didn't have meaning and purpose. But really, we as humans are one of the most amazing things in the universe. I like to say, we're the most amazing technology updated and created for today's modern universe, you know, and the most awesome, amazing technology in the universe, a living human being, we have the ability to make choices. And if we hamper that choice, then people start to devalue themselves. But we need people to get that value back in themselves. So we need to encourage them, motivate them, inspire them that they're worthy of being able to make a choice and self-respect their own self, that their choice is of value, even if it is wrong and they say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. That's a value too. They need to learn that and correct it. That's why we're here. So that's kind of the end of what I was hoping to say for tonight. We just turned the hour, but I want to hear, go one more time around. If anyone wants to kind of conclude their thoughts for tonight, feel free. I'll shoot it to Brandon next, and then I'll let you pass it on, Brandon.
Sure. First thing, Jeffrey, thank you for joining us. We all have been in that exact spot, you know, just starting off, you know, doing your first live stream or video. And it takes courage, it takes willpower. So, hell, again, I want to thank you because I know what it feels like. And it's not easy, you know what I mean? Because think about it, hell, now you're putting yourself out there. And, you know, it was so much that was covered. But, you know, like how the mindset of order following, you know, how we talked about how mind control, you know, earlier, and, you know, how educating people on the evilness of being a order follower. And we all may have a family member or a friend or know someone, you know, who is in this unfortunate, you know, dynamic. And you can still have care for these people. And that's why we try to give them this information and try to educate them. You know, how like Fred, you know, had brought up is we got to have care because when we are trying to educate these people, that's what we are bringing is we care because we care for these people. We want to see them, you know, better themselves. We don't want to see them continue pushing this evil agenda. And we can have these emotional, you know, hell attachments to people, and that's what makes it, you know, like even harder. But still, at the end of the day, as tough as it is, the reality is they are still following orders and they are not obeying conscience. You know, so it doesn't matter who this, you know, who it is. Once this person makes that transition, then we can offer 'em that hand of extended to help them up, you know, and still try to, you know, inspire them, you know, show them by example, you know, give them all this information. But until they make that, you know, have a choice to, you know, to come to the, you know, the side of morality and natural law, at the end of the day, you know, unfortunately, like they are still doing wrong behaviors because they are not obeying conscience and they are giving up the greatest gift of free will choice. You know, like given, you know, by creation, the ability to choose, the ability to use discernment, the ability to weigh our actions, judgment, you know, discernment. And if anybody is not obeying conscience, then you are in the wrong. So, you know, that's what I'm going to close. And it is a tough thing, you know, because we all, you know, have may know somebody and it'll affect you, you know, but at the end of the day, you still got to keep going and, you know, you got to have that courage yourself, you know, because staying in that emotional attachments, it can bring you down. And, you know, Chris brought up, you know, like how can you, you know, reach them as far as the approach. I like the hard approach, and I kind of like, you know, the kind of soft approach. You know, like kind of having both. You know, more tools in your tool shed, or more tools in your toolbox, because everybody is going to be different. Me personally, I've always liked the kind of Mark Passio style, like like the kind of hard, fiery type that, because I have a very hard exterior. Hell, I've umpired for 18 years. Like I've been called everything you can think of. So like I'm totally fine with that. But some people may learn, from a more gentle style, and that's totally fine. We're all different. We all are going to learn different. So it's about having different styles. Like having different flavors. I know Derek is in the music. It's like when you freestyling, you can have different styles. You have multiple styles because you can reach a wider, audience. When you are a comedian, you have different styles because you can reach and make more people laugh. So it's enhancing your game and your craft and your art form and your artwork. And if you have multiple styles, then maybe you can reach more people. So I'll pass it on to whoever wants to take it next.
All right, I'll close up with some thoughts. I do like Passio's style because sometimes people need a kick in the ass. So as much as I think Jeffrey had said stuff about and encouraging people and stuff like that, both approaches can work. And sometimes being encouraging. Well, part of the kicking, getting a kick in the ass, metaphorically speaking, in terms of getting you to realize the importance of doing the work, and that if you're not doing it, then you're not. I guess you're not caring enough, and you're not self-actualizing yourself enough to the point where you're teaching it, and then you can feel a bit of like guilt, but that can help motivate you. And some people, if you just coddle them, and it's like, oh, it's okay, yeah, try to encourage them, but there's like it can have a more of a negative feedback of where they don't get motivated to act. So I do appreciate that aspect of what Passio does, because that's what got me in gear too. As much as I was on the journey of truth and the quest for knowledge in 2006, it wasn't until Passio that I eventually, after 2 or 3 years or whatever, in 2013, I decided, okay, I'm going to make a site, and I'm going to start to do stuff. So that's what I wrote to him too after I made my site. I was like, yeah, just letting you know I made a site, and I finally kicked myself in the ass. That's what I told them back then. And I'll just end it there. Go ahead, whoever wants to finish up.
Oh, I just want to let you know, I might have been misunderstood. It sounds like a couple of people might have thought that I was trying to say that I don't like Mark Passio's style, how he yells and gets angry. I like that style. There's nothing wrong with righteous anger. It's a natural response to injustice. It motivates you to correct wrongdoings. What I was saying, different than him, is just a new idea. Instead of not instead of, as well as what you guys are doing and what I'm aspiring to do as well. A lot of people starting off from beginners. I'm saying reaching one person like Alex Jones, who already has a billion followers, would be more valuable than 100 people taking the becoming the True Media course. And I encourage anybody thinking about it to take the course. I'm probably going to take it next time it's offered. I was just saying, I have another idea. Since he knew Alex Jones well enough to get on the show, maybe he doesn't know him well at all, but if he still has any contact at all, I think focus on getting the message to someone like that who already has so many followers.
Yeah, Jeffrey, just so you know, you said you're up to episode 100, 200 in Passio. If
Yes.
you go 207 or 211 or something, somewhere around there, he's going to talk about Maven targeting, and that's exactly what you're talking about. So it's
He
where
actually mentioned
multiple
that.
people. Yeah, in the preview, but he does a whole video presentation, so a full 3 hours on it, and he goes more into it. So I think you'd appreciate that. So keep going, and you'll gain a lot more value. Like all of his podcasts, everyone should listen to all of them, and it'll probably light more light bulbs will connect, and you'll connect to a bunch of things, and you'll be even more inspired, and you'll but that's a hard thing to do, the maven targeting of getting a powerful, like a really popular influencer to talk about a certain subject. It would take a lot of people that have knowledge on that subject to like continually comment on their posts or try to get in contact with them and try to keep pushing and pushing on a certain topic for them to talk about it. And yeah, it's a very big challenge to do that.
Yeah, that's easier said than done, you know. But yeah, maven. I don't know if you know what that word means, but it's like a influencer. You know, it could be, you know, anyone. Like, just think of the head of the household that has like the strongest voice from the microcosmic level, and then, you know, on the macrocosmic level, who are the most popular people around, and, you know, follow the money and how that trickles down. Also, though. But yeah, let you finish, Jeff, if you wanted to. Yeah.
So I just want to thank everyone who are still do active work, and I just want to tell Jeffrey something. You don't have to wait that to be perfect. You just need to put your energy at the good place. Essentially, your attention, your care. So, in my experience, I made many mistakes. I mean, the podcast as took like maybe a year to get in, but I'm telling you, I've seen people, and I consider myself an influencer. The way that I try to influence care and common sense to people. So this is not a bad name for what we're doing, because the people who we're struggling to take back the place of truth this is what they're using influence. So we need to influence back. There's no amount of money who's gonna make it easier, because most advertiser entertainment, they don't want to have this information out, because it's gonna liberate people. We're living proof of that. So there is a place for great workers to push the information out. There's people asking for it. You have to find them. You have to find them. And there's much more than people think, because people, the one thing that I think most people struggle to do when it comes to podcasting or streaming or things like that, it's to put your face out. It's to put your voice out. I think this is the one thing that stops people from doing the work. It's people are afraid of losing privacy because of that. But I'm telling you, people, the people who will listen, the people who will listen, we have to do it now, right fucking now. We need it yesterday. And don't wait. Do it. Because I'm doing it in two languages. I'm doing it in French, and I'm doing it in English, and I'm getting people. I'm getting some people. And these people, if they're awake a little bit more and they become conscious about that, my job will be done. I would be satisfied with a tiny percentage of people. So just keep doing it. Do it, practice, know your rhetorics, and know the maxims and natural law, and everything will come out. Everything, because you have it already inside of you. It's already owned knowledge. So you're gonna see it everywhere. You're gonna start to see the patterns, and it's a beautiful, great work. It's hard, but it's beautiful. So I encourage people to go there, the One Great Work Network. Just get there and encourage all these great people who are like fucking working their ass off to put the information out. So go there and encourage all these beautiful people. And thank you, Chris and people. I'm proud to be here with you all tonight. So thank you again.
Yeah, that was a good way to finalize things there. Thanks, Fred. Give people that drive, that purpose, and we can be examples. And we show the passion and the care. Then they go, man, I want to be like those guys that actually care about the future of humanity and the future of other people's children. Care about the big stuff, man, and be a big player in this world game. And when you die, we can say it. I gave it all my effort. I didn't just give up and leave it up to someone else. So let's leave with that. Thanks so much for joining me today, Brandon, Chris, Jeffrey, Derek, Fred. You're heroes, and I appreciate your help tonight. And we'll come back next week for another discussion. I haven't even decided what yet, but it's going to be something good, that's for sure.
But hey, in the meantime, folks can check out As a Great Solution, a whole curriculum for years to come. Chris Nelson's website. Any parents out there, they could teach their kids wonders for years to come. Just check out that website, and if that brings value,
evolveconsciousness.org.
Yeah.
yeah, the man deserves some great donations for that.
I second that. Amazing website. An amazing website.
Oh yeah.
Right on. All right. Thanks, guys.
Much love,
everybody.
fellas.
Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, buddy.